Well, hey everybody, and welcome to video number 2. We are going to dive back into my book, From Debtor to Better. We are going to talk a little bit differently this time. In our last video, we basically said we need to give you an introduction. I had to give a little bit of a disclaimer, and I said, hey, what is reasonable risk? If you haven't seen video 1, you may want to go back and check that out. I would encourage you to do so, and it'll give you a little bit of groundwork for what is to come and where we started. But today we're going to talk about something a little different, and we're going to jump a little deeper into the topic of what debt really is. Because while we have talked a little bit about risk, we need to understand what debt is. And sadly, we have to start with a definition. We have to understand what it means when I say the word debt. Now, Webster's, and I'm going to have to actually look that up because I want to make sure that I read you verbatim what Webster's dictionary says. It says, an obligation or liability to pay or return something, the condition of owing. Man, that right there was earth-shattering, right? That's what the Webster's dictionary says when you look up the word debt. But that doesn't tell you anything, does it? I mean, that doesn't give you any indication of what debt really is, because if you've lived long enough to experience debt, you know that it's a lot more than just the condition of owing. Let's consider it from a little different perspective, because I want us to all be in the same mindset. I want us to all have the same perspective and understanding of what debt is, so that when we're trying to deal with it, when we're trying to get rid of it, which is our ultimate goal, right, is freedom from debt, that we know what we're facing. So let me give it to you a little differently. Now, I give a different definition in my book. It's chapter 1, again, From Debtor to Better. If you don't have it, you can get a copy on Amazon. You don't have to have it to join us in what we're doing here. But let me give you a little different definition. Let's look at Proverbs 22:7. Now, even if you are not a person who believes in God or the scriptures or any of that kind of stuff, Proverbs 22:7 rings true. The book of Proverbs is full of truth, whether or not that you believe in the Bible, because it's good common sense and good wisdom. So if you just try to tune me out because, oh, no, we brought up the Bible, don't. Okay, let's stick around for a minute. Proverbs 22:7 says that the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant, or the borrower is slave to the lender, depending on your translation. So the rich rules over the poor, the borrower is slave to the lender. That is the definition of debt as it is given in Scripture. That seems a little more likely to fit for many of you who have dealt with debt, because debt means that you are saying, I'm going to look into my magic crystal ball and I know the future. I know exactly what's going to happen, because when you pull out that credit card and swipe, what you're saying is, I don't have the money now, but doggone it, I'm going to eventually, and I'll give it to you when I do. You are saying, when you sign your name on that mortgage or the car loan or whatever else you may be signing your name on, that you are going to have the money tomorrow that you don't have today. That is debt. So we need to go into some detail here and understand why we go into debt, because that will put us in the right perspective to understand how to deal with it. Okay, so that's the claim for today. That's what we're going to aim to do in a few minutes. And this is not going to be a super long video, so stick with me, and I hope and I expect that you will gain quite a bit just from a perspective of what debt is and how it interacts with us. So first off, debt is normal. Okay, it is totally and perfectly normal to have debt, because everybody else that you know has it. Everybody else that you know has a car loan, a house payment, and 14 credit cards. That's just normal. I mean, that's the American way. I don't want you to be normal. In fact, I don't want me to be normal. I don't want to have debt, and I don't want you to have it either. But that's the big reason that a lot of us are in debt, because we look around and we say, hey, they just got a new car. Hey, they got a nice big fancy house. Hey, I don't have that stuff, and I need that. I need that, right? That's what we do. We look around and we say that we've got to have the same things everybody else does. So the house, the car, the vacations, the stuff that we have to have right off the bat. We get out of college and society expects that we're living like our parents. In fact, Larry Burkett had a fairly famous saying that newlyweds expect to live the same lifestyle as their parents, who have 25 years a head start on them on income earning and doing things the good common sense way. Well, guess what? Yeah, he's right. We want the same lifestyle at 22 that we have earned by the time we reach 52 or 62. We want to live that lavish lifestyle today, so we take on debt. And that's what debt is. It is looking today and saying today, I need this stuff today that I might eventually earn tomorrow. It's a selfish outlook. I mean, it's really what it is. It's selfishness. I want it, and I want it now. That's what debt really is. So there are really a couple of extremes. You got the people who are on one end of the extreme who are in immense amount of debt, and they're insanely so in over their head. They've got every new gadget that happens to come out. They've got everything that they could possibly buy. They're maxed out, literally maxed out in all respects. And so you look at that person, you're like, no, I don't want to be that person. I want to behave with my money. I want to be good. Okay? So what do? And you know this person too. Well, they live in a house that is really just bad. They drive a car that you're not really sure actually still should be legal to drive. Their kids look like they haven't bathed in years. I mean, there's the two extremes. I mean, think about it. When you imagine somebody who is totally debt-free and who has financial independence, you probably envisioned in your head somebody who's like on the yacht enjoying their glass, you know, they're drinking the glass with a little umbrella and telling their servants to come do things for them. On the flip side, if you say, I want you to look at somebody who is really, really, really struggling with their finances, you probably are looking at the poor person who's on financial assistance and really just struggling in all the different ways and looks poor. Now, I use the word looks poor because we'll talk more about poor versus rich later on. Acting rich and acting poor is what went into your mind because that's normal. That's what we have been taught over the years. But debt is not the tool that gets us there. It's our minds that get us there. It's the mindset that we have. I'm 100% debt-free. Stacy and I have paid off our mortgage in 2011 and have no debt since. And guess what? I don't drive a fancy car, but I could go buy one. We don't live in a fancy house, but we may eventually own one, and we probably will go buy a nicer one than what we live in now, but we're going to do it when we're ready to pay for it. So when you look at the definition of debt, you've got to be careful because there's a lot of unconscious or subconscious things that come into that, and we get these pictures in our head of what it means to not have debt, or we don't fully understand what debt really is. Okay, I think you're tracking with me, so let's move on just a little bit further. One of the common things is this idea that debt is a tool. Well, debt is a tool if that tool is the one that's going to put you in handcuffs. So debt really can be a tool, but most people look at it from the perspective of debt is a tool that can get you out of things, or that can solve your problems, or that can get you further ahead. No. So don't believe that debt is a tool unless you're looking at it as debt as a tool to hurt you, okay? The root problem with debt is a lack of discipline or ignorance. A lack of discipline, meaning I can't behave, or ignorance, which simply means I don't know. Now, ignorance and stupidity are two different things. Ignorance is I don't know. Stupidity is I won't learn. Okay, so I don't want us to be stupid. I understand that we're all ignorant about a lot of different things. I'm ignorant about a lot of stuff too. Today and beyond, our goal is to cure the ignorance. So I can equip you with the stuff that you need to know so that you won't eventually do stupid with money. That make sense? That line up okay? All right, so what is debt? Debt is looking at it from the perspective of Proverbs 22, verse 7, and that is the borrower is slave to the lender. I do not want to be a slave, and I don't want you to be a slave either. It's that simple. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, I can help you with one of those. I can't help you with the discipline part. I can't say, you will now magically have more discipline because we talked about this. No. Just like I can't make anybody except me do something that I don't want them to do. It just doesn't work that way. I can't motivate you and give you the discipline that is required. Now, I can give you the tools that you need. I can fix the ignorance. I can help you with the motivation because you now understand better, but I can't make you more disciplined. So debt becomes a problem usually because of one of two things. The root problem is often ignorance, which we can fix, or lack of discipline, which you've got to work on. Now, I know there's some outliers there. You got people who go into debt because of medical bills and all this other stuff. I get that. That's not the focus. If that's something that's out of your control, I'm not fussing at you, okay? What I'm trying to put in the perspective that is the right perspective for us all to dive in under is what is debt from the perspective that we can control, okay? So we can work on our discipline, and absolutely we can work on curing our ignorance, and that's what we're going to aim to do. So the last time that we talked, I gave you the homework of looking at your financial situation and asking yourself the question, what is the reasonable amount of risk that I'm willing to take in my financial situation? what's comfortable for me, because you can't have zero risk, not really, and you don't want an immense, crazy, insane amount of risk, I hope. So somewhere in the middle is where you land. Hopefully you've done that homework. Today I want to give you a little different homework, because I want you to think about and put yourself in the right mindset to understand where we're going to go from here. So today's homework is as follows. I want you to do two things. Number one, I want you to look up Proverbs 22:7. If you've got a Bible, it's easy to find. Proverbs is right after Psalms. It's right, pretty much in the middle of your Bible. Pretty easy to find. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. That's the verse. And I want you to think about that. I want you to think about what it means to be a servant or a slave to the credit card company, or to the car company, the car loan company, or your mortgage company. Just think about that. And the second thing I want you to do, excuse me, the second thing I want you to do is I want you to think about the last time you did something really, really, really stupid with money. And I want you to put yourself back there for just a minute mentally and think about what you did, what led you to the decision to do it, and what really happened. I want you to think through that, because if you haven't already caught on, our goal is to put all of us in the right mindset to be dealing with our debt in a common sense way, in a way that won't get emotions all tied up and hung up in it, because when we get emotional, we lose. We've got to stay objective. The only emotion that will help us here is anger. We can get mad at our debt, then we'll do something. But if we get passive, if we get all, oh my goodness, I just love that thing. If we get married to our stuff, then we're not going to get out of debt. So I want you to think about Proverbs 22:7, and I want you to think about the last time you did something really stupid with money. And next time when we get together and talk, then we'll use what you've done so far, considering your risk, and considering the stupid with money and the idea of being a slave, to go a little deeper. Okay, so I promise this preliminary stuff is important. We'll dive in deeper in the stuff that really is going to apply how we can get out of debt and how we can work through it. Again, we're working through chapter 1 if you are using the book. And again, it's debt defined. What is it? That's really what we want to talk about today. So that's all I've got for you today. I'll be back with you in a few days. We'll talk a bit more. And until then, I wish you the best. I hope this goes awesome for you. And we'll talk soon. Take care. See you.